Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
I thought you were agnostic.
As I get older, I'm becoming more
I've actually noticed.
spiritual, I suppose.
I've noticed.
Have you? How so?
I have.
How so?
Nah, over the past couple of years, you have sort of warmed up to the whole concept of spirituality.
Of humanity.
Not necessarily humanity. I see the humanity part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Closer you get to death.
Could that be the reason why you are so interested in lighting and grounding?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's all earthly and...
I would
Actually.
like to give a shout out to our half century.
Oh, yeah.
50 not out.
Happy belated.
Yeah.
Half a century old.
Here we go.
And kicking.
And kicking. That's the main part. Huh? There was a time we thought I wouldn't. That's why I'm more spiritual, probably.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that was a very dark time. Yeah.
Anywho, what are we chatting about today, Mr. Noble?
Well, my favorite topic,
Your favorite topic?
Black Power.
Power.
Amandla.
Not that
Amandla. as the Americans would say it.
Different. Amandla.
Amandla.
It's a different continent.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Take it away.
All right. Black consciousness, not black consciousness, black power.
It's this way. Yeah, they mustn't get confused on that one. That sometimes worries me when we have that sort of... But it's different papers, so it shouldn't be an issue. But black consciousness, South Africa, black power, America.
Yeah. Black power movement, late 60s, 70s, America. So...
Well, let's start with the beginning. I mean, what the philosophy of black power? Why did it come about?
Yeah, I was about to touch briefly on the civil rights movement, of which we've done an episode of it before. So northern states, America, civil rights movement, predominantly southern states. And maybe even before we delve into that, I should caution our matrix when writing a black power essay, not necessarily to delve too much into civil rights movement, if any at all.
Well, I think the only thing they need to say is that civil rights movement affected paper change, but there was a lot of frustration and poverty and so on.
So essentially the growth of the black power movement, even in terms of its conceptualization, it is African Americans or black Americans adopting a more assertive stance in terms of attaining or achieving equal rights in America.
Civil rights.
Civil rights. Yes, because it is in a sense a civil rights movement in itself. But a civil rights movement that is geared more towards black empowerment, self-reliance, self-determination, spearheaded by the ideas of Malcolm X, who is then assassinated in the earlier parts of the Black Power movement.
August 65, I think it was.
Yes. But essentially his ideas live on, ideas on black nationalism, identifying with Africa, the continent, some Pan-Africanist ideas in there as well. The whole notion of embracing one's identity, black is beautiful, ideas on self-defense, not provoking, but taking up arms in defense of oneself, which is also a constitutional right. So in a nutshell, that's essentially what Black Power is, and there are obviously various events through which we see this philosophy unfold, and there are various characters and initiatives, such as the Black Panther Party, which does tend to be a focus in exams.
The militarism of the Black Panthers, So, I mean, let's rewind it to why did it happen? So, as we said, civil rights movement proved to be, very successful in its peaceful approach. but successful in paper change, meaning that laws were changed, Civil Rights Act 64, Voting Rights Amendment Act 65, and various others throughout. However, in the ghettos and the projects, poverty remained. You know, the unemployment was very high. Conditions were really bad.
Police brutality as well.
Police brutality,
because that would allude to the self-defense philosophy or idea of Black Power.
Yeah, exactly. And so the discontent of many African Americans, particularly young African Americans, who saw a need to, as you said, have a more assertive movement and a movement of empowerment. Pride becomes a big one. Assertiveness would arise from pride. So how, and often that's the question. It's, how did Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael, maybe Angela Davis can be thrown in, but it's not really a curriculum study of her. The Black Panthers, the Watts riots. How does this contribute to the development of pride? Maybe the development of a new identity.
Yes.
If a question says that, a new identity. Well, what is the new identity? Pride.
Yes,
Pride in yourself. So it's just that elaboration on the link. It's not a curveball. It's just they need to explain what the new identity is and then focus on that. So they are proud. They are assertive. So the philosophy of it is all of that. It's, you mentioned black nationalism, meaning that they must stand together. I think, interestingly, you've already mentioned Malcolm X. I think we go into this sometimes with the preconception that they wanted equality. And to the degree that, yes, equality, but not integration. I think that's a key point that's sometimes missed. So Malcolm X is quite a big advocate of separate economic development. And it's more a focus on economic equality. They don't necessarily want to, fit into white European society. Separate communities. I think it was Malcolm X, might have been Carmichael, who talks about how white-owned businesses in black communities take the wealth out of those communities, because that's where the ownership is. And so he talks about independence and again, economic independence, developing your own black economic independence, so that money stays, that economy remains within. Black communalism is sort of something that pops up in the Black Panthers. So let's talk a little about Malcolm X and where he comes from and how he is an influence on this new identity and pride.
So X is particularly interesting for me. He reminds me of Steve Biko in so many ways. Well, around about the same time period. Biko, his influence predominantly in the 70s with black consciousness here in South Africa. X's role is heavily philosophical. So the teachings, the interviews, the speeches, debates, because this is where a lot of black power activists derive their lenses from, or their outlook from, the teachings of Malcolm X. And we do expect our students to understand that, to grasp that, and so perhaps in their study they should actually delve deeper into the various talks that Malcolm X had delivered, and just these ideas that we've already broken down, the concept of pride, the concept of nationalism, the concept of self-defense. I mean, when you look at the Black Panther Party, so there's the element of communalism, that there's also a very strong component of self-defense.
How would you, just on that, you're saying communalism, how would you differentiate between communalism and communism? I think we discussed this in a different episode. Well, what are your thoughts on that? How do you differentiate the two? Would you argue communalism is on a smaller basis than communism, which would be of more of a national basis?
I think it's the projection of both. So we could live in a totally capitalist community. We as a matter of fact, I come from such a background with my small circle of neighbors, where we were fairly or are fairly affluent. So everyone is capitalist. We're all professionals. We all have, our lives going. But we practically shared everything. Yeah. You run out of milk, and all stores are closed. You just simply call your neighbor, and they pop you a liter of milk. And we lived around each other like that. Whereas communism really does tackle wealth distribution. But there must be wealth to start off with in the first place. There must have been a capitalist economy in the first place, and wealth is not evenly distributed. Because communism is saying, let the means of production, which have been established by obviously a capitalist. This is someone who has innovated, has poured in their capital into this. We are saying, let us take that wealth, let the government, let the government be, as some political parties will say, be the custodian of that wealth and then evenly distribute it to the benefit.
Well, that's
of
socialism.
The working class.
Yeah, communism would be the people doing it themselves.
Yes,
which is why I asked the question, because communism in its purest form is the people running everything. But yes, having already established a capitalist society.
Yeah. There's always been a layer of independence in the type of communalism that I come from. We were never obliged or obligated to share, but it was, good neighborliness, a strong sense of understanding need, within the community. As a matter of fact, I became an educator because I could see what other people did not have access to. And I've always appreciated that privilege, and I always saw the knowledge and insight that I might, have to share with everybody else. And I still do that actually in various spaces and in various communities. And so for me, it's it really is just, what we term Ubuntu, from our African culture and heritage, Ubuntu, which is basically recognizing the needs that another human being has. It's not so much economic, nor is it restricted to economics.
Nice.
I hope I'm making sense.
No, absolutely.
Because I'm also processing it as we go.
That's why I asked the question, because I think sometimes we read that, and then there's that confusion. Okay, what is it? Is that communism? Is it? It's not communism. Communism is essentially a political system. It's never worked properly.
Yeah.
Communalism, I think Ubuntu is a great word to use in that. There's a sense of community upliftment amongst yourselves.
Yes.
Which indicates self-dependence. That you have achieved a level, and that's essentially what X and Carmichael are talking about.
But it also indicates a certain level of self-love, because if you love yourself, you love the environment that you live in, you want to keep it clean, you want to keep it safe, you want to ensure that your neighbors are taken care of, and all of that, and it trickles down from that self-love or embracing oneself.
Which is a very good point, because I think self-love could be synonymous with pride. And that's what this is all about, achieving a sense of pride. So black communalism is an entire discussion almost on itself. So Malcolm X is an advocate of that. Because I do think it's important, because the question will say, how did they inspire pride and such? So the fact that he was a great orator, that he spoke really well, that he was in interviews on numerous occasions in the 60s, early 60s too, before he was murdered in 65.
Unalived.
Is that what the youth say? Is that what the youth say, Chris?
It's what the YouTube algorithm wants.
One nods, one shakes his head. Okay. Unalived.
That's for YouTube.
Okay. It's, what do they call that colloquialism? It's like street jargon. I don't know. There's a term for it. Anyway. No. Colloquialism is slang to a certain area or genre, but there's a term for it. There's another term. Never mind. Okay, back to Malcolm X. I think just another point. Yeah, so he's in interviews. He's out there. He's making his points. Very good debater. Very intelligent guy. Hell of a background. To my memory, 12, 13, when he witnessed his father being murdered by the KKK, I think it was, Ku Klux Klan. A lot of time in jail. I think he spent 10 years in jail or something. But yeah, I mean, his philosophies. I mean, what is major philosophies? Black nationalism.
Yeah.
Independent economic development.
Yeah. Self-defense.
Self-defense. Black communalism. All these are things. So you can't go into this essay just giving a biography, and talking about where he grew up and blah, blah, blah. That's not adequate. You've got to discuss those elements of philosophy and link that to how that inspired through the methods of oration, speaking, interviews, etc. The spirit of upliftment, the empowerment, the pride within people. I mean, his name alone, Malcolm X.
Yeah. Malcolm Little.
So why the X?
So, yeah.
I think it's
rather have nothing there than to be dehumanized, than to be.
Well, why is that dehumanizing? Little is related to his European kind of background. So I suppose the way I explain it, anyways, is that I think he felt like he didn't know his African heritage. And so, as you said, the dehumanizing element of having a name that wasn't African.
Yeah, so he's saying the jury is out on that one. I'm Malcolm, in terms of where I come from, the jury is out on that one. I'm defining who I am, I suppose. Yeah.
I'm rejecting my colonial European background of influence, maybe arguably slave name, which probably is what he would refer to it as. Yeah, I mean, you could really go on a stretch and say the X represents the branding of the slaves. I don't think that's true, but it sounds good. So everything about him was about that. Interestingly, though, I mean, obviously separate development and that, but then he went in 1964 on a pilgrimage to Mecca. And returned with a completely different view and vision of that philosophy, and started to actually talk about integration. Because he saw that people can coexist and so on. So he did have a bit of a, whatever you want to call it, a revelation of sorts. Then he was a part of the Nation of Islam. Now, that's also an interesting concept, the Nation of Islam being generally Black Americans. Who I think were essentially rejecting the Christianity, which is essentially the symbol of European colonization. And so a lot of them, Muhammad Ali, what's his name, Cassius Clay.
Yes. Oh yeah, because he changed his name as well.
Exactly.
From Cassius Clay. Yeah.
So a lot of people, famous people, but a lot of African Americans. Adopted the Nation of Islam's ways. Elijah Muhammad was leading that. And then, ironically, he was murdered by them. And it was to do with, I forget the details, but it was to do with borrowing money or something. And it was, essentially a murder, not a what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't a martyrdom. He didn't die for the cause. He died out of a ridiculous issue. That was Malcolm X's pretty vast impact. He is essentially the father of the Black Power movement.
Black Power, yeah.
And then I think Stokely Carmichael.
Stokely, yeah. So Stokely is the one actually who coins the term Black Power.
Black Power, in one of his speeches.
Yeah, and the slogan, what is it? Is it
Black is beautiful?
Yeah.
I don't think he coined that. I think he just popularized that. Black Power came from one of his speeches. It was a phrase he used. Whether he's the first who ever said it, I doubt it, but it became popular. But Black is Beautiful was just something that existed and became very popular.
Yeah. Stokely is particularly interesting because he transitions actually from the CRM, Civil Rights Movement.
Part of the SNCC.
Yes, non-violent
Student Nonviolent
coordinating committee. Yeah. And he actually transitions over to the Black Power movement, which is not only just I was going to call it a political shift, but do we want to call the civil rights movement a political shift?
I mean, it is. It's
to an extent, yeah.
I mean, it's a human rights issue, civil rights issue.
Yeah. But
I mean, it is political.
Yeah, but it's also at an ideological level for Stokely as well, because civil rights is deeply entrenched in peaceful resistance, and so having partaken in that, having led in that alongside Dr. King, and seen the successes, but those successes not being adequate in terms of real tangible change for Black Americans, he moves over to Black Power philosophy, still pushing X's teachings, one should embrace themselves.
I mean, they do overlap a lot, the two, because they do see eye to eye. Self-defense, Black nationalism, separate development. So when they're discussing it, I mean, they should mention that, but they don't have to explain it in as much detail as you would have with Malcolm.
With X.
I think the details here can be the things like, coining the term Black Power, or at least, saying it in one of his speeches and then becoming popular. Black is beautiful, same thing. Very, very literal examples of advocating for African heritage, African dress, wear, traditions, that sort of thing. Even music. I mean, you can talk about, like James Brown and that sort of popular characters. I mean, he ended up marrying Miriam Makeba, the South African star. So obviously Africa was a big thing on his radar. Changed his name, moved to Guinea. I want to say Guinea in Africa. I forget actually. What did he change his name to? It was after the two leaders, Kwame and Nkrumah.
Kwame Nkrumah. So that would be maybe Ghana?
Yeah. We should know this. Sorry. Yeah. So I mean, he's you mentioned sort of Pan-Africanism, that sort of thing. He was very much an advocate of that. Wonderful speaker. If there's that lovely video footage that we show them, that's got tons of interviews with him. Very humorous, very witty, talks about King, very respectful towards King. Famously says something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing, great respect for King and everything that he does, but he's part of the youth and doesn't have the patience to love everyone and not use violence. So he went through it, as you said. He was part of the SNCC, which started out as a peaceful thing. Ironically, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee became an advocate of self-defense. And he just changed his mind. He said, I've encountered violence. I've turned the other cheek. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy that. It didn't suit my temperament as a younger person, which is, again, why it appeals to a younger generation.
We on assertiveness and self-defense, we skipped Watts.
Well, I think that can follow those two. You can bring that in at any point, after X or after both of them, I think. So L.A. Watts.
The riots. So this point is often argued as evidence for the development of assertiveness.
Which is questionable.
It is questionable.
Kind of a Soweto type case study for Black consciousness. Similar thing. But essentially Watts is the culmination of all of Malcolm X's teachings as they penetrate into the Black community, and people actually saying, we shall not put up with injustices longer. What comes after? It's 65. It's August 11th because I know this because it's around my birthday. It's 11th to the 16th. So it's 6 days, or 11 to 5, or whatever the maths is. 6 days from the 11th of August, 65. So it's around about when X is assassinated. I forget when exactly he was assassinated. So, finish your thought, because I was going to say something else slightly off on a tangent before I go on that tangent.
Yeah, so so what is, as I've already alluded, it is a culmination of everything that X had taught, and simply not accepting an injustice such as the murder of X or assassination of X, amongst many other forms of injustices that African Americans or Black Americans. There was a debate actually on that recently. Hence I keep changing these two terms. African Americans, Black Americans. Not everyone in America was Black, is from Africa, right?
That's also debatable.
It was an ongoing debate online, maybe a couple of years ago. So that is perhaps the significance of what, and again, it is debatable in terms of what actually caused it. But I typically view the Watts riots as just the culmination of all these various factors, not just X, but the poor housing, poor education, police brutality, and it's people saying we are in a different mental state right now. We've learned about our value. We've formed our own independent structures, or are in the process of becoming an independent people. So Black nationalism. And so when we encounter injustice, we are not tolerant of it. We are not we're not in servitude of brutality, of injustice, but we will respond as we have been taught by the likes of your X and your Carmichaels.
Yeah, and again, like I said, it's always a debatable issue. It's the same as the Soweto debate. Had this movement been going on long enough to have instilled that sort of pride and mentality that they would nobly and romantically stand against brutality. I mean, how does it start? It's what's the guy's name? I can't think of his name now, but a youngish guy. I think he was in a car with his mother, stopped by because Watts is a suburb of California, projects area, ghetto, and California police officer stops them, accuses him of drunk driving under the influence, and then it's unclear as to whether he resisted arrest, as to how brutal the police were. That's not clear information, clear evidence, but it turns into a 6-day riot costing like $40 million or something, in which is a lot more than $40 million today. This is 65, so it's 60 years ago. So is it? I mean, I think they can argue that it's the culmination of pride. It's the case study that they have now been empowered, and we won't stand for no tolerance for that police brutality. Very much in line with the teachings of the Black Power movement. I think also maybe more pertinently is the fact that the fact that it happened led to Johnson pushing for improvements. So it leads to more success. It leads to an element of improvements of government political action. That Johnson sees that the people are intolerant now and angry and they want improvements, and so it does push things. I mean, there are more riots, 67, 68, Newark, Detroit, various other ones, that again, similar. I think it's the same sort of thing, but it's very violent, and whether that's in line, maybe one of those questions on militancy and violence being prominent. L.A. Watts has to be brought in. The other riots in Newark and Detroit should be brought in because it did have an influence. A lot of fires set to the city, burning businesses down. Fire department could not get into the towns because the police couldn't offer protection to all of them. So I mean, it just became quite chaotic and almost sort of anarchistic. so it's not always a positive element in the Black Power movement, and it did push a lot of moderate African Americans, Black Americans away. Certainly the white community saw it as a very negative thing, and absolutely the FBI jumped on board and started to paint it as a very propaganda, very negative thing. That was Watts, and then the year later, the year after 66, Huey Newton, Bobby Seale,
Black Panthers. Black Panther Party for self-defense, even though it wasn't just for self-defense. They did a lot of community projects as well.
And maybe communalism comes in.
Communalism, feeding schemes, educational programs as well. So essentially taking the whole philosophy of Black pride and practicalizing it. A more pragmatic approach is that we're not just going to preach to you, but let us actually invest in various projects that are community driven, which then reflect on the objective. African or Black Americans becoming self-reliance. This whole notion of self-determination again. Not having to wait for somebody else to save you. We're not waiting for the government to come through and actually deliver a good quality life for Black Americans.
It's I think the meat of this essay actually comes with the Black Panther Party. The militarism of it. It's a very interesting party. It's a very interesting movement, part of the Black Power movement. They are Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, very intelligent people. I think Newton was a lawyer. He practiced that. He used it to advocate for self-defense and the right to carry arms, and they would protest on the stairways of police stations in their communities. They would protect their people. That was their whole thing: patrol their own neighborhoods to protect their communities. So it's there's a lot of nobility in it. There's a lot of, as you say, pride and self-destiny and taking matters into your own hands. There is a lot of violence. There are shootouts. there are community shootouts. There are people dying. That often becomes a question.
Which is also in part why the Black Power movement in particular would not have gathered as much diverse support as the civil rights movement. It is that violent element of it. Whether it was assertive in a sense that it was, in self-defense, we are pushing back because we have a right to and a right to exist. But the bottom line is it was violent. It was very much aggressive, and that repelled a lot of public support from the Black Power movement. It also makes it easy, as you mentioned earlier, the FBI. It makes it easy for an anti-Black Power narrative to be fanned into flames.
They formed 66. I think by 68. I think they were at their peak membership, about 10,000 or something. They were FBI's enemy number one, state enemy number one. So they were viewed as a terrorist organization. They were viewed as a communist organization. They were publicized. It was a propaganda movement against them, to be thugs and what. Now, I do think there were elements of people who were attracted to joining them because of the fact that they advocated for self-defense, but it gave you an opportunity to go and march outside police stations, wave your gun.
Excellent disguise,
So not to say that it started out, and you've already mentioned the great community services that they provided. Their 10-point manifesto is essentially all of that, feeding, helping, removing poverty in the ghettos. But it definitely attracted an element, for all its nobility and whatnot. What's happening here? I feel intimidated. Why are you hovering? Are we good? Okay. We're approaching the end of it anyway. Yeah, I think that the Black Panther Party needs to form a substance of this. I think they need to be very familiar with it, learn those points of what they did and helping communities. There's a lot of indoctrination from their part too. You know, their little teachings of education amongst the little kids, and there's video footage of it. You know, singing songs about the pigs, you know, which obviously means the police. So a lot of anti-police, anti-white, whatever. But, you know, the propaganda was going back and forth. But it, as an element of inspiring human dignity, I think within a community, bringing in that spirit, that communalism and such, through those programs, feeding schemes and education programs, they're giving kids who are often orphans an opportunity to feel human, to give them that dignity back, to feel a sense of humanity and love from an area in their community, and that gives you pride, and that gives you purpose, you know, empowerment and such. So you have a lot of good coming from it. Despite the negative element that is definitely associated with it. So they have to, in discussion, you know, find that balance in that discussion. Oh, what's the indication? Have we lost that camera? Not yet. We're good. Yeah, no, I think that brings us to pretty much the end. I mean, just a little a blurb at the end on successes of the Black Power movement in general. Certainly opened the doorway to more African American politicians. You know, got a few of them in there. Definitely after the riots and after the Black Panthers and such, the push to, like we said, Johnson improving home improvement schemes or housing schemes, improving the projects, building of schools, I think was one of those things. So it did lead to some successes. I think the major failure is that negative connotation of violence.
And obviously spearheaded by propaganda, but some truth to it as well.
There's always truth in propaganda somewhere. There's always an element of truth. But I mean, it's definitely it definitely instills pride. There's definitely a movement, it's particularly amongst the youth, that are inspired by X, Carmichael, the Black Panther Party, people like Angela Davis, you know, who's actually been out to South Africa in recent years, talking at universities. You know, she in interviews talks very eloquently of when the interviewers say to her, you know, like asking her about her attitude about violence towards, and then she says, but why am I accused of violence when we are violated, there's brutality against us, that's okay, you know. So self-defense when you're being brutalized. Now again, it's not always the case in every scenario, but she makes very good points. Very intelligent person. Became associated with a jailbreak and the gun that was used, and that was hers, and so let's not go into that too much. It does, again, it paints a bit of a shade on that. But you know, when you listen to her, she is a very logical speaker and does make a lot of good points about that.
A Winnie Mandela-ish character from the US.
A little bit. Not as closely linked maybe to the violence, but yeah. Anyway,
all right.
I think that wraps us. We are wrapped in Christmas paper.